My name is Mark Martin, and you've probably read a bit of my background in different law enforcement agencies and different places. I'm a practitioner. I've also been actively involved in arresting hackers and involved right in the front end in terms of cybersecurity itself. So I've actually seen it hands-on, actually arresting hackers and stuff like that. So hackers. So we are in this big world. We've got this massive digital transformation about to happen. The biggest transformation. So one of the biggest transformations that we've happened is the Internet of Things. So currently, do you know how many devices are currently connected to the Internet of Things? Anybody? 14 billion? By 2020, they estimate to be 200 billion devices connected online. So that is obviously a massive surge. And the problem with the Internet of Things is security is an afterthought. Companies are going through transformations. So you've got bring your own devices. You've got access to the internet. You've got the different smart cars coming out now. All these different types of electronic devices, smart TVs, and a lot of it, security is an afterthought. You know, people working at home. So with digital transformations, the important thing is to buy into, for people, that you're going through a transformation. This is cybersecurity. You're going through a transformation, but you have to look at it two ways, the business and personally. You have to get people to engage with cybersecurity, because if you're cyber secure at home, you're more likely to be cyber secure at work. And sometimes, you know, I've traveled around the country teaching courses, cybersecurity for executives. And we cover a lot of stuff on the courses. We talk to people. We have this, the whole management team involved in that, just communicating, talking about what's the threat actors, what's the things out there, what type of threats could be against the actual company, what things can we put in place to help us to move us forward. You know, Cyber Essential scheme is one thing. You know, organizing stuff. Sometimes having a routine, put the thing in place can help people to understand and move forward. People have to buy into it. Because if someone's at work and they begin this new laptop, which we've just been talking about, they've got this new laptop, but they haven't even thought about security about it. They're taking it out, they're going out to different places with this laptop. What's the danger of taking a laptop out? Shoulder surfing? Someone trying to earwig? Someone trying to get access to your laptop? Social engineering is another wonderful thing that's happening in relation to these things. So we have to look at different devices. How do we actually look at it? How do we communicate with it? Because the Internet of Things, so the Internet of Things, anybody knows what the Internet of Things is? Someone give me an example, Internet of Things?
Wi-Fi fridge.
A Wi-Fi fridge. Yep, a Wi-Fi fridge. Sorry? A Wi-Fi kettle, an iKettle. So proximity. Get closer to the kettle, and the kettle will switch on for you. You've got iToasters out there, which put a nice little pretty picture on the toaster. But the problem is, your home is only secure down to what device is there on it. So if that device you have in the house, for example, I'm talking about home, which affects work. In the home, whatever device is connected to the internet, which could be a Nest, which could be your thermostat control, if it's controllable by an app or a device, so all it needs is someone to get into that device. If there's no security on it, I can access your Wi-Fi. I can take control. If I can control your Wi-Fi, I can take control what? I can control everything in your house. I can see your banking. If you're working from home and someone gets access to your Wi-Fi, what's the danger of that for the company itself? If you make staff aware of what's out there, what the problems are in relation to cybersecurity, what are vulnerabilities out there, how can I defend against it? If you teach people, let them understand what's available, what's the vulnerabilities, that helps them to understand it and become more cyber aware and secure. So there's a search engine on the internet called Showdown. Anybody heard of that? Showdown? Yes, you've heard of it? Showdown is the search engine for the Internet of Things. Showdown once a week goes out to the internet and finds devices online which have no passwords on them or has no keys on them. It has unsecure CCTV systems. These are all, the showdown is going to companies. It's not just going to people, it's going to companies as well. And when you click on Showdown and you view some of the stuff, just put in like no password on it and you type in there, a load of companies come up. And sometimes you can access their systems. You can view CCTV through there. You can access webcams. But embarrassing, I did a presentation, had all these things set up on the machines, showing, this person was just watching TV. Just watching TV. I thought that would be a good example, just to show someone their webcam's completely open. When I came to that slide, I went, oops, better shut that one down as soon as possible because they weren't watching TV anymore. But it was straight in someone's house, literally in someone's house. So it's understanding some of these things. It's we have obviously different policies, different things in place in relation to stuff. So why is cyber security important to me? Some definitions there from different companies. Cybersecurity matters to me because it fundamentally impacts the day-to-day activities of almost any individual and organization. That's the key. The individual, if the individual knows about cybersecurity, knows how to protect himself online, he's going to benefit your company. He has to benefit your company. I'm a social engineer and an open source technician. So I can go online and I find out information about people very easily because you are all computer savvy in this room. But who would I go to find out information about you? I'm going to your friends and family because they all talk about you. You might not have a digital footprint online, but I can go online and I can go to find out about your friends, your family, who are completely open, and they'll provide loads of information about you. You'd be surprised how much stuff. I go into the dark webs, I go into the deep web, I go into the surface web, I go into different platforms to find information about companies. It's amazing how much information is leaked out on that. So understanding information is your lifeblood of your organization. If that information is available, which has to be for business to communicate, but can that information can also be used by someone else as well? So, who cares about cybersecurity? Who cares about cybersecurity? That's a question to everybody. Who cares about cybersecurity? Anybody? At the back. Sorry. Sorry? Telecoms, yeah. So, anybody else? Who cares about cybersecurity? We all should take some responsibility in cybersecurity, and that starts from the board level upwards, downwards. Board level, downwards. Board level, downwards. Because if they buy into it and they're saying, yes, I need to be cyber aware, because the problem is, we hear a lot about phishing. What's phishing of the PH? It's not phishing like this, is it? What's phishing? Anybody, what's phishing? Mining for information? Yeah? Phishing comes in different forms. People can use phishing, and there's a specific target for phishing, and specifically against executives. Do you know what that's called? Whaling. Whaling. We're going to have a look at that in a minute, what whaling is. So, quick little slide. Listen, I apologize, you can't probably read the writing on it, but it says, just very quickly on the slide, 97% of companies have been victims of digital attack, and only 22% are fully prepared for it. 55% have seen an increase in cyber attacks, but only 23% have insurance. If you use the Cyber Essential scheme, which is basically just getting your house in order and having a plan for it, you can actually get reduced insurance costs. It can actually reduce your costings. 71% have procedures in place to review tools and strategies deployed by cyber criminals, and 73% digital security is on the board agenda, but only 55% have been educated, their directors, about it. So if they don't know much about it, they learned a bit what people tell them online, but there's a lot more out there. It doesn't take much to get information about things. So the cost of cyber attack: first round cost, loss of income, resources, disruption to your business. And if you have disruption to your business, if you're an internet-facing company, that could potentially cripple your entire business. We've seen that with WannaCry, with the NHS. Second round, the impact, reputational damage, and then obviously the impact further down, impacts on digital networks and layoffs. So who are the people threatening you? You've got a whole list of things on there. Anybody know what a state-sponsored attacker is? What's a state-sponsored, sorry? Korea? North Korea? How do you know it's a Russian organization attacking you? Because you have bear in the title somewhere. It'll be bear something. Because in Russia, you're not allowed to hack unless you're registered with the government. Chinese, about 120,000 people working for the government just for hacking purposes. 120,000. And sometimes they'll make themselves appear as different. And if you look at the top 10 digital people, hackers on the American list, 5 of them have got military uniforms on. Very sophisticated. So you've got cyber criminals, hacktivists. Anybody know what a hacktivist is? Professional hacker? Anybody name a group? Anonymous? Yeah, anonymous. Anonymous. So some of these people, they'll dump the information onto certain sites where the information can be obtained. People's credit card details are all on there, and you can see loads of information about people. You've got hackers, you've got journalists, you've got commercial competitors, you've also got the insider threat, and you've also potentially got a customer threat as well. So, you know, someone that's not happy. So, employee behavior. So, passwords. Passwords, is that a dirty word? Or should it be as long as possible, the passwords? You know, many times people get the passwords and they'll write it down their book somewhere. There's hardly any thought being put about passwords sometimes. Sometimes you can guess them because they're using them in other places. Also, opening infected attachments, unsafe. So that's phishing, isn't it? Phishing. Then falling victim to social engineering scams. Because a lot of people got stuff on LinkedIn, all the history on LinkedIn, and from that LinkedIn, you can then follow the trail and find other information about the company. You start finding how people communicate in the business. The lingo, the inner lingo. And people can use different types of attacks. They can just make a phone call to try and get information in there. The important thing is training. So one of the biggest things you really need to take away from this little quick session is best cybersecurity investment is better training for everybody to look at it privately and publicly. So, the threat to you. Direct threat to you, phishing and whaling attacks. We've talked about whaling. So these are some of the whaling attacks that you could get. So you get the email comes through. There is other attacks where you get the email and you get the phone call. So someone emails you. So if I was going to attack your company, I might speak to the receptionist and say, you've got a problem with your servers. I'm such and such a company. The receptionist takes takes on board what I'm saying. I turn up the company, and I've obviously made contact with somebody, and that allows them to have access into the company. And many of my colleagues have actually walked away with people's IT equipment just doing that, by just a verbal way of doing it. But emails, so email somebody, and then a phone call to add a bit of credence to it. And sometimes what they'll do is they'll spoof the email address. What does spoofing mean, Mark? They'll spoof a phone number. What's spoofing mean? So basically, they're making it appear as something different. It looks like it's an internal thing. And if I've learned a bit about your inner lingo from looking at LinkedIn, it sounds like I might be someone from your HR department. The other ways that people attack, I apologize, I don't know how we're doing for time. 4 minutes? Brilliant. I've got loads. So, whaling email from malicious actors masquerading as a trusted partner. So, who's a trusted partner in a company? Who's a trusted partner in a company? That could be your supplier, couldn't it? If someone, it's called a man-in-the-middle attack, where someone appears to be somebody that you communicate regularly with. They're using their email address or spoofing their email address. It looks like the communications are going on, And that way, they can get in the middle of it and they can start asking for further information and start doing further attacks on it. Some other forms of whaling attacks appears to be your colleague, an email from your colleague. You can spoof emails quite easily. Is it your colleague? Is it the words that are in the email of your colleague communicating with you? Or is it somebody else? Another one that can also happen is whaling through social media. So this is finding information about you on social media. And sometimes when we're doing whaling attacks, I'm not going to go to the CEO of the company. Who else am I going to go to? The PA. The PA has all the passwords. The PA has all the information sometimes. So I'll go to the PA, target them, try and find information about them. Very common attack. So the benefits of cybersecurity, there's three high-level things you can talk about. So one is strategic benefits. So corporate decision-making is improved through high visibility of risk exposure, both for individual activities, major projects, and across the whole organization. Then you've got financial benefits. Financial benefits to the organization through a reduction of losses and improved value for money potential. Because sometimes people get security, and if they review it, as they should do, regularly, is that value for money, that security we're using? No, probably not. Because the entire threat platform might have changed, digitally speaking. The third one is corporate decision making. So you've got the operational benefits. Organizations are prepared for most eventualities, being assured of adequate contingency plans. So if something happens, they have a plan and action to be able to deal with it. Our website goes down, digitally speaking. What can we do about it? Have we got backup servers somewhere else we can use? We've got a flood. Is this something that we can talk about? Where's our backups? How far is our backups away? 9/11? 9/11? One company, or some companies, they had all their backups in the other tower. They went out of business completely. You never anticipated it. That's the problem with some of these things. We need to be aware to understand the threat actors there and understand a process to be able to deal with it. Then we've also got who makes cyber risk management decisions. Ultimately, that's the board, isn't it? The board makes the decisions. The board should obviously communicate the values and priorities of the company placed on information, assets, and communicate through the business. All companies have crown jewels. That could be physical assets or it could be information. Something that needs to be dealt with and controlled. The board's best place for doing strategic decisions, the context of risk management, the resources available, an overriding aim of the legislation is to understand and be mindful, and obviously someone has to be accountable for it. I'm mindful that time might be... Can I finish? Thank you. So how do we implement cyber risk management? So detailed knowledge of the business, its objective, assets, level of acceptable risk, the right skills for the right job. Have I got the right people in the right places to do stuff? Have I got IT people in there? Have I set in place HR, a way of protecting things within the systems? We may have electronically, but what happens if someone gets into the HR area? Is a lockable cabinet there? Is something in place? Physical security is another issue as well. So the important is check regularly security measures, test the effectiveness of security controls, procedural as well as technical, and value for money. I apologize if I've overrun for time there. Thank you.